Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, May 24. As is always the case in these pandemic times, we're meeting via Zoom. Remains to be determined how long that will continue, but at least for the next meeting, that will still be the case. For us, as well as for our other boards and commissions, you can pick up the Zoom link at our main website, which is pleasantville-ny.gov. Our next regular meeting is 3 weeks from today, Monday, June 14, with a work session at 7, a regular meeting at 8. I had a bunch of announcements to make, but we also have a public hearing tonight on a zoning study and a proposed addition of floor area ratio and definition of average mean grade in our zoning code. Shall we start with that? I see Christine and Susan. So rather than hold those two folks up, let's go ahead for the public hearing, and then I can return to the announcements thereafter. Is there a motion to open the public hearing on Pleasantville residential zoning study proposed floor area regulation?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome to the public hearing. As is always the case, the text of all that is being proposed is available on our website, and we have been through the process of discussing this in work session and a regular session, and this proposed zoning has been forwarded for comment both to the County Department of Planning as well as to our own Planning Commission with positive results in both cases. So I welcome Susan Favate, her colleague Christine Jimenez, both of BFJ Planning, to run through quickly what this is all about. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a short presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that works.
It did.
Let's see. Okay. And you can see, okay, great. Okay, so here we are, public hearing. And if anyone has followed along, then you probably know this already, but we just wanted to take a step back and remind folks about what this is all about, what is really driving this. And it's really emerged out of some concerns with, some new residential construction in certain areas, certain neighborhoods of the village, being out of scale with the surrounding neighborhood. And so floor area ratio is one tool that is used increasingly and by many other communities, including in Westchester County, to address the bulk of residential construction, the bulk of any building construction, actually. The concern in Pleasantville was that the current regulations that you have, which are primarily setbacks, so the front, rear, side yards, and building coverage, were not sufficient on their own to control the bulk of new homes. And that's especially an issue when you have larger lots. And so you have room for very large homes that could be zoning compliant fully, but also much, much larger than the existing neighborhood. And this is not a problem that is unique to Pleasantville. It's being seen really throughout the region, and I would argue the country. As homes are getting larger, people's tastes are gearing toward larger homes, and that's a challenge when you have pre-existing neighborhoods that were built in a much earlier time, and you have smaller lots in particular where it's a great impact. So FAR is a common tool being used in residential zoning to tackle this issue. We got started, toward the end of last year, early this year. We started up with an analysis phase. Christine Jimenez did a lot of that work for BFJ, where we looked at the existing residential buildings and the residential homes in Pleasantville. What are the existing sizes relative to the lots? What's conforming, what's not? What are best practices in some of the other communities in Westchester who are using FAR as a tool? What are their regulations like, and what is working for them? Based on all of that analysis, we worked with staff and with the village board to draft the actual zoning regulations, which, as the mayor mentioned, have been referred to the county. We got a comment letter back. Basically, they had no issue. And then we did have, we referred to the Planning Commission and had a meeting with them as well. And I think any concerns by the Planning Commission have been addressed as well. So where we are now is that final phase, the environmental review, which is the SECRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act, and adoption, ultimately, we hope, of the zoning regulations. And so we're at the public hearing stage. Based on tonight and what we hear from the public, we will make any necessary revisions to the zoning and finish up the environmental review. And then the village board would be in position to adopt, most likely by the next meeting, I would imagine. So what is FAR? Because it's fairly wonky in terms of a zoning tool. It is one type of a bulk control. It is usually used together with height and setbacks, basically to control the bulk, but particularly the volume of a building. So in terms of a mathematical equation, it is calculated by dividing the total gross floor area of the building by the total area of the lot. You get either a fraction or a decimal with that exercise. And the higher that is, the higher that number is, the greater the building volume. It in no way regulates style or aesthetics, doesn't get into materials. You can have certainly a home that is fully compliant with FAR, but maybe isn't the best looking home. And so we don't get into that. It's hard to control aesthetics with zoning, but there are other ways to do it. And Pleasantville already uses FAR. It's not a new tool for the village. It's already in use in the R2A, which is your two-family district, and the residential office district, as well as all of your business and industrial zones. So it's already in place. When we look at what FAR looks like in comparison with some of the other tools that are usually used in zoning, the diagram that you see on the top is basically what exists in large part in Pleasantville now. You've got your required yards, rear yard, front yard, both sides, side yards. You've got a maximum building coverage. And so that all of those things are governing what is happening with the footprint of the building. And you also have height, which in Pleasantville for single family homes is basically 2 stories. What you see with the bottom diagram is what FAR looks like. So you can see with an FAR of 1.0, you can cover the whole lot with a single story. If you had a 2-story building, you could cover half the lot. If you only had, if you had a 4-story building, you can cover a quarter of the lot. So it kind of functions with height. And it really is dictating how much area you have within the building. Okay. So when we looked at FAR in Pleasantville for this study, the approach we took was to look at a sliding scale of FAR numbers, the actual allowable FAR for the single family districts, which is based on the lot size. I think when FAR was first being used, some communities did it by zoning district. Increasingly, I think it's a better practice to use lot size because obviously not every lot in a zoning district is the same size, and not every lot even conforms with the required lot size in a zoning district. So using it based on the lot size itself really captures that impact of either an oversized or an undersized lot. And once we got into the analysis a bit, we actually made the decision to exempt undersized lots in Pleasantville. And the reason there is that there are a lot of neighborhoods that were built prior to the existing zoning. They may not comply with zoning now. A lot of the older neighborhoods in the village have undersized lots, and they are already fairly constrained with their development potential in terms of what they can do. They already require variances often to do any kind of upgrades or renovations. So the sense was we don't need to sort of pile on to that. So we made that decision to exempt the undersized lots. This similar method is used, and we'll show you in a couple more slides, in several other Westchester communities that are somewhat similar in scale to Pleasantville, in particular Bronxville, Scarsdale, and Irvington, as well as both the village and the town of Mamaroneck. So there is precedent out there. And what we did with the analysis is, in order to come up with the numbers, we used the existing built homes as a starting point in Pleasantville. We calculated the median FAR in various lot sizes to come up with what might be a good starting point. And one of the intents with that analysis was really to try to avoid as much as we could the creation of a significant number of zoning nonconformities. We really didn't want to be putting existing homeowners in a position of having to get a lot of variances. Some of that is not avoidable whenever you change the zoning. Inevitably, you're going to make somebody nonconforming, but we generally try to make that number pretty low so that we're not burdening existing homeowners. So what you see here is the result of that exercise. And I would urge you to focus first on the green numbers. That is the Pleasantville column. So the darker green is the median floor area ratio of the existing homes according to these lot sizes. So, it's some rounding involved. Not every lot comes cleanly at either end of those scales, but this is a good starting point. And what you see is that the proposed maximum FAR for these lot sizes first of all, exempts anything under 7,500 square feet, because that is the minimum lot size for single-family zones in Pleasantville. So those first 4 rows, those would be exempt. And then starting with 7,500 square feet, you see you start with 0.47 and then you go kind of on up. And what you'll see in that column is that in every case, the proposed FAR is a little bit higher than the median existing. That was done by design. We wanted to make sure that there was a bit of room for existing homes to enlarge, to have some modest upgrades. We didn't want to constrain everybody to what they have now. Obviously homeowners should be able to upgrade their home to modern standards. So we wanted to give a little bit of wiggle room there. But then what you'll also see is you'll see the comparison with the other municipalities. And we also wanted to be careful that we didn't want to be the most lenient on the block. We didn't want to be the strictest. And so I think we've struck that balance, trying to be reasonable, but also trying to actually control the size of homes. And you'll see the impact of that in some further slides. But you'll see if you go all the way down to the bottom, to the largest lot sizes in Pleasantville, the proposed FARs, 0.25, which is a little bit higher than Scarsdale and Irvington, which are quite restrictive. And then just a little bit less than Bronxville and the town of Mamaroneck. I should note that it's not totally apples to apples. Some communities, and you'll see, we'll talk about what is included versus excluded in FAR. It may not match up quite exactly, but it's a good proxy. They're generally fairly similar. So how will the proposed FAR numbers affect home sizes in Pleasantville? Well, when you look at the table on the right, you'll see the sizes of existing lots and the number of those in Pleasantville. So you'll see there's about 20% of the existing lots in Pleasantville that are under 7,500 square feet. They will not apply. FAR will not apply to those lots. So they're sort of off the table. When you get to the smaller lots, so anything up to 11,000 square feet, which is about just under a third of that total, what is going to be the controlling factor in bulk is actually the lot coverage. And you'll see that on the next slide, kind of how that works out with the math. What that means is that, a lot of that size, if they want to build a home or expand a home, they're going to bump up against the existing lot coverage requirement before they get to the maximum FAR. So that's really going to be the controlling factor. Where the scale starts to tip and the FAR would become the controlling factor is on the larger lots. So about 18% of existing lots in the village are over 22,000 square feet, which is approximately half an acre. And those would be the lots that would be most affected by the new FAR regulations, which is exactly what the intent of the study is to control larger lots where there's the potential for the much larger homes, more so than the smaller lots. So you'll see on this table, I'm not going to read every line, but this sort of shows what that tipping point looks like. And I'll just give a little explanation of it. The first column is the maximum building coverage, which is a flat 20% across the board in all single family zones. And so that gets you at a maximum building footprint. If you assume that there's 2 floors, that you basically double the footprint, and that gets you what your assumed existing maximum square footage is. So that third column is what would be allowable under the current regulation. And you'll see then the next column is the proposed FAR. And what you'll see, for example, in that 7,500 square foot row, you hit the maximum square footage based on lot coverage, building coverage, before you hit the FAR maximum coverage. So basically what's already existing would be what controls the size of your homes. And that kind of continues to a lesser extent until you get to that tipping point of 11,000 square feet where they're the same. You could get about a 4,400 square foot house under the current regulation, 4,400 square foot house with the FAR provision. And then when the lots start to get bigger, it's the FAR that you bump up against first. So you can see the impact of that so that when you get to the very bottom row, 22,000 square feet, under the current regulation, which is just yards and maximum building coverage, you could have an 8,800 square foot house in one of those larger lots. And you can see with the maximum square footage allowable under FAR, that number comes down to about 5,500 square feet. Still a very large house, certainly a generously sized house, but not to the extent that would be currently allowable. Okay, so we also wanted to take a look at, really how much are we looking at in terms of zoning nonconformity? How many lots are we going to be making nonconforming? And so that analysis indicates that about 196 of the developed parcels in Pleasantville, or about 16%, would now become nonconforming because they would now exceed the maximum FAR. those homes would be considered legally non-conforming. They could continue to exist. But if they were to look at expanding their floor area, they would most likely need a variance. Then there's another 71 of the developed parcels, or about another 6%, that would now become non-conforming for FAR, but they're already non-conforming for building coverage. So these are particularly on the smaller lots. So, if they're looking at expanding the floor area, they would likely already need a variance in that situation. And again, it's that 18% of the lots that are the largest that would be most affected by the proposed controls. So we also wanted to dig in a little bit because you have to think about what you're going to include, how are you going to calculate floor area ratio. It really is meant to be focused on the interior floor space, which helps dictate the volume of the house. And so we spent some time figuring out how do we want to treat attics and basements. And that is really handled a little bit differently in every community based on the particular needs. In the discussions that we had, we decided for existing homes, so homes that would be existing as of the date of the adoption of the ordinance, if there is a habitable attic, a finished attic, that is excluded from the FAR calculation. It exists. It's already part of bulk. It doesn't really have an impact on the neighborhood because it's already there. And similarly, if there is an existing home that is currently existing, and the owner wants to finish the attic, it's not a finished attic currently, but they want to finish it in the future, they could do that and it would not count toward the FAR. And again, the reason is that it already exists. It's already factored into the bulk of the neighborhood and the lot. However, if there is a new home built after the adopted ordinance, a finished attic would count. And that's because it really is contributing to the bulk of that new home. Another thing that is included in the calculation of floor area ratio is a finished basement. So the way that the village defines a basement is that it's a story that is partly underground, but at least half of the height of that story is above grade. And so that's useful to think about. It's a particular way that the village has defined it. Many people have finished below grade stories that would actually not be considered a basement for Pleasantville's definition. I'm sitting in my basement right now. It actually more than half of the grade is below, more than half the ceiling height is below grade. It would not be considered a basement. It would be considered a cellar under Pleasantville's definition. And as you'll see on the next slide, that actually is not included in floor area ratio. So, it matters in terms of what is included and what is not included. So if the basement is finished, it counts. And then the other thing that counts is interior space that is greater than 12 feet in ceiling height. And that is something like a two-story foyer where it's not exactly, there's not a finished second story. It goes all the way up to the full height of the story, but it's not technically 2 floors. We want to try to actually capture that. And increasingly communities are doing that to try to capture that because again, it does contribute to the bulk and the appearance of bulk in the home. So that space would actually be counted at 1.5 times. So you're trying to capture that upper ceiling space. So what is not included in floor area ratio, this is sort of what you get kind of for free. It doesn't factor into the calculation. As I mentioned on the last slide, cellars. So a cellar under the village's definition it's partly underground, but more than half of the height is below grade. So I have a sense that there's probably some people who have finished basements in Pleasantville that are technically considered cellars, at least according to the definition. And those would not count. You get that space. It doesn't contribute toward bulk because most of it's underground. It's not seen by the public. And if you have basements that are used only for storage or maintenance, that does not count. Anything related to accessory off-street parking, so garage, whether it's detached or attached, porches, crawl spaces, breezeways, decks, all of that does not count. And then lastly, if you have a detached accessory structure like a shed that meets all the other requirements, height, setback, coverage, or you've gotten a variance previously, that also does not count. So there's a fair amount of flexibility in what does and does not count. So that is FAR. When we got into the study, we started talking a little bit about building height as well, because that also factors into concerns about the size of homes. And it's something that more and more communities are seeing developers building kind of to the max, where they never built all the way up to the required height, and now they are. And one thing that we have been seeing increasingly is the manipulation of grade, the site grading, to allow for homes to sort of be taller and to dig into the grade to allow things like walkout basements. And that type of thing really does have an impact on a neighborhood. It can effectively create a 3-story house, from the rear at least, that is fully zoning compliant. So we want to try to capture a little bit of that and see if we could address that through zoning. And so what we proposed, based on a lot of coordination with the building inspector, Robert Hughes, is to create a new definition of building height that is measured from the average grade. Currently, it's measured from the average finished grade, but now it would be measured from the average grade, which would be redefined as either the existing grade or the finished ground level, the finished grade, whichever one is more restrictive. And you'll see in the next slide kind of why that matters. The intent really here is, again, to disincentivize the manipulation of the site grade and ensure that things like walkout basements really are captured as full stories. So you'll see in this diagram kind of the impact of this grade manipulation. The diagram on the left shows that the pre-construction grade is that bottom darker line. And then the post-construction grade this is an example of the lot has been sort of built up. It's been regraded. They've maybe brought in soil to kind of elevate the whole lot. And you can see that they've built into that grade a little bit and how much higher that house can be, because it's essentially got that basement that is exposed in the rear. The house on the right, it's the same grade, it's the same manipulation, but this time the height is measured from the pre-construction grade. So you can see how much lower it actually is. The reverse of this also can be manipulated. I've seen towns where they measure from the pre-construction grade because they're trying to capture this type of thing where they build up the lot and then they build so much higher. So they say, oh, well, I'll measure from pre-construction now. And then you have a house that's on a hill, existing hill, and they dig down into it and then they measure from the hill because that's pre-construction and it's a lot higher. So this is the benefit of what's proposed here in Pleasantville is we're not trying to figure out whether they're going to manipulate it up or down. It's whichever is more restrictive. We're going to capture that. So we think that will actually have a pretty good impact on building height. And then the last zoning change, which is a very, very minor one, really in the category of cleanup while we're in the code, we might as well fix something that has come up. And this is on the parking and loading standards table, which is one of the appendices in the zoning ordinance. And at some point in time, one of the rows in that table got deleted. So it's not clear whether the rows underneath that in the table refer to loading or parking. So we're basically going to add back that row that got deleted just to make very clear which standards belong with parking standards and which belong with loading standards. There are no changes at all to any of the actual standards, any of the numbers. It's just pure clarification. And so that is it for the proposed zoning changes. I just wanted to spend a minute on this final slide on the next steps. So after I stop talking, we'll take questions from the public as well as the board. And based on what we hear tonight, we will make any kind of necessary revisions to the zoning changes, complete again that seeker process, the environmental review, and then be in a position for the board to adopt the zoning amendments. So I'm going to stop sharing because I think that's it and open it up for questions. And I don't know who wants to MC the public questions, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susan. Very thorough, very helpful. Thank to you and Christine, and shout out to Robert Hughes, who's been an integral part of this as well. So any comments or questions from members of the board? Not surprisingly, we've gone through this quite a few times already.
Yeah.
If there is a member of the public who would like to speak, now is your opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
You may.
Was someone else asking a question before me?
That's all right, Shane, you can go ahead.
No, David, you're a board member. Go for it.
So my question is, what's the easiest way to allow members of the community to know if a proposed improvement is going to meet FAR or not? Just have them contact Robert, or?
Right, that's the process.
Because this is not intended to be like a self-service for a non-architect or non-planner, right?
I mean, I think it's written in a clear enough way that folks could get a sense for what's possible for them. But Robert and Lyndon are the resource to help folks understand what they could do. And just to be clear, Robert, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. It isn't our belief that this change will have a terribly big effect on too many people.
I think Susan and BFJ did a really good job of analyzing it, and I don't think we're going to eliminate variance requirements, but I think they've done a great job of having it well managed.
All right, Shane, you had some.
Yeah, so I'm not a big, it's Shane McGaffey, 75 Broadway. I should give that for the record, right? You're welcome. So I'm not that I'm a big proponent of big houses, but I was just, when I was looking at that table, it looked like there was only about a 900 square foot difference between a house on a lot that was only 11,000 square feet as opposed to one that was on 22,000 square feet. And, you know, that's double the property and just 900 square feet more in terms of, I was wondering what the rationale was for that. And if,
You want to comment on that, Susan?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the table again. That's correct, Shane. There's not necessarily rationale. It's sort of the way the math works out with that sliding scale. And the rationale on the scale itself was to, be consistent with how much it goes up proportionally. So I guess the way the math worked out, it is about a 900 square foot difference, which is not insignificant. But like you said, it's a little bit more proportionally probably than the difference in the lot size.
right, I was just thinking that I might be more intimidated by the house on the 11,000 square foot property as opposed to the one on the 22,000 square foot property. That was basically my point, but I guess there are enough of them that exist, right? And you're not going that far above what is now.
Look, we don't have a tremendous number. The max on 11,000 square foot, both based on the building footprint and the new FAR, is 4,400 square feet.
Right.
Do we have a whole lot of 4,400 square foot houses? We don't. Are we trying to eliminate them? We're not. Where you see the big difference, from the current code to the future is when you get up to a 22,000 square foot lot, the footprint guidelines could potentially give you an 8,800 square foot house, and we're knocking that back based on the FAR to 5,500. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a worst case for sure on that whole column. Really under the current regulation and the new proposed FAR, like the mayor said, I don't think you have very many existing homes of that size on 1,000 square foot lots. And you can always adjust these numbers in the future. Certainly there's not an intent to encourage larger homes. For the example, on the 11,000 square foot lot, you could get the 4,400 now. If you were to start to see a proliferation of 4,400 square foot houses, you might want to adjust the numbers a little bit. You can always adjust them up or down, and communities do that all the time. But we think it's a good starting point, just to get some, get a control in there in place to start controlling, particularly on that higher end, larger lots.
right. I mean, we're in the category of trying to regulate with as light a touch as is reasonable, not trying to solve problems we haven't had, other than to look forward and say, what sort of community would we like to preserve in terms of the context of the neighborhoods, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
Understood. That just kind of popped out at me. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
I guess one question I had was, are there, since it's the public hearing and we're not hearing advocates for these large homes, have there been advocates for the 6,000 to 8,000 square foot home that have kind of sent emails in or voiced their opinions in other forums that we don't know about, or is this 16 person box kind of the people who are tracking the information?
Yeah, Eric and Robert can comment. I have received no comment at all personally about it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, and almost every other issue that comes before the board, I feel like I hear something, but this one I haven't heard.
Well, I mean, recognize it's a matter that doesn't affect too many people in a significant way. So,
the administrator's office has not received a call or comment on the issue or the topic.
Okay.
I haven't received anything official. Any discussions I've had, they're in favor of this new regulation.
Great, thank you.
all right. Any other comments? Is there any comment from a member of the public? Any further comment from the board? All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We've departed the public hearing. Christine and Susan will depart us. If you can proceed with the documents required to allow us to vote on this at the next meeting, that'd be much appreciated.
Absolutely. I have a call tomorrow with your village attorney, and so we'll go through the next steps. I think she indicated we're very close to having the local law already. It was sort of already in draft form. And then we'll work on the rest of the seeker documents as well this week. Should have no problem getting you something by the end of the week.
Great. Much
Thank
appreciated. Well, thank you, BFJers, for the kind of good work we expect from you and always get. So much appreciated.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
your presentation.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Let me go back then to my announcements. The first is a precursor to a couple of resolutions that we're about to raise and then pass. We have a new face here on our grid of Zoom faces, and that's Alyssa Hochstein. Hello, Alyssa. Alyssa has joined us and will take over the role that Noreen has occupied so ably as Noreen transitions to the Treasurer's Department and becomes the treasurer for the Village of Pleasantville as Mary Schwartz is retiring. Noreen is an old hand in that department, having been deputy treasurer in her role before she transitioned to the front office role. So delighted to see this transition, Noreen, and delighted to welcome you into the mix, Alyssa. Really happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us in the Village of Pleasantville.
Thank you.
I have laid eyes upon you face to face, but hopefully the rest of my colleagues will get a chance to soon. So I had a few announcements to make. The first, as folks I hope already know, the COVID world is starting to feel more promising. You can always go to westchestergov.com, click to go to the dashboard. The dashboard looks like this. The very happy news is that today, new cases by municipality, Pleasantville 0. Cumulative cases by the municipality, Pleasantville 703. And then active cases by municipality, Pleasantville 1. So those numbers are way better than any numbers we have seen since this whole thing started. So that's really, really, really great news. You can see here, the number of active cases are down everywhere. That's also great news. COVID is still active. We did have a new case a few days back. So folks need to realize it's not gone, but the best way to protect all of us is to get a vaccination. So also from that site, you can click into the vaccine dashboard. Here it is. The frustrating piece about this is that it hasn't been updated since May 9th. That was a subject of discussion with the county today, and they report that the folks who are responsible for that have been, in one case, not available, in another case, just overwhelmed. So I believe that this vaccine dashboard is going to get updated quite soon. But as of May 9, the Pleasantville 10570 zip code was at 66.3% of the population 18 and over. Since then, I am hoping when they update this, we'll start to see the numbers that include the now eligible folks who are 12 to 17 as well. From this dashboard, you can click your way into various other things, including school district report cards, and you can click your way into scheduling a vaccine, either from the county or the state. This site, northwellvaccine.force.com, is the Northwell Health site. Northwell, as most of you likely know, is the owner and operator of both Phelps Hospital in Sleepy Hollow and Northern Westchester in Mount Kisco. They are fortunate in having been given through the largesse of the landlord the vacant Pier 1 site that is on North Bedford Road in Bedford Hills, just above Staples. As a vaccine site, they can deliver 1,000 vaccines there every day. And as you can see today, of the 1,000, there are 614 slots still available. So You can go to the county center, you can click through the county site, the state site, am I eligible? Or you can go to northwellvaccine.force.com and make your way up to Pier 1. So very, very, very strongly encourage folks to do this. As we saw last week, the CDC came out with a rather sudden announcement that relaxed the masking requirements for folks who are vaccinated, did not relax the masking requirements for folks that are not. Yet another reason to get a vaccine. And then lastly, let me remind folks of the availability of the Excelsior Pass, which is an app available on both Android and iPhone. You can read about it at epass.ny.gov, find out about it, find about how to get started, find out how to use it to safely visit businesses, and find out about their privacy policy. The Excelsior Pass is one of a couple of different ways that you can demonstrate your vaccine status. It's being used, I know, at Madison Square Garden and Barclays Center for the Knicks and Nets games. Go Knicks and Nets. I encourage you to take a look at this because part of the reason that our numbers are looking so good is we have done reasonably, but not incredibly well on the vaccine front, and we're really pushing hard to get that accomplished going forward. So before I move off the COVID world, does anybody else have a comment to make on that subject?
Well, I just wanted to add that you don't even have to make an appointment at some of these places. Like I think at the county center, you can also just show up.
Yeah.
If that seems like one hurdle too many.
Yeah, I think that's true also at the Northwell site up at the empty Pier 1 store. So we have gone from a few months ago with people struggling pretty hard to get a vaccine appointment to the circumstance now where lots of appointments are going unfilled. A shout out to both Phelps Hospital, the folks at Northwell, and Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, which stood up to pop-up vaccine clinic the week before this past weekend at the Pleasantville Farm Market. Thanks to the farm market as well and to all the people that went there. But again, I think it was a successful event, but there were vaccine doses that went unused, and we really would like to use every one of them we can get. Couple
Also,
of other.
I had one also
Sure.
for anyone that needs a ride to a vaccine that can't get one. Both Uber and Lyft are giving free rides up to $25 off for anyone that just can't get to it. You could just do it through your app, and they're giving free rides.
Cool. Thank you for that, Paul.
They're also
Dave.
available at CVS in Thornwood.
Okay.
Walking distance.
Great. All right, segueing to other stuff. Our pool season opens this coming Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, May 29. A lot of work has gone into getting the pool cleaned up and ready, and it's looking great. We really hope that folks who haven't joined will take a look and join. You can get to the online registration through our website at pleasantville-ny.gov. When we first put this out a few weeks back, we indicated that the COVID restrictions based on the guidance we were getting from the County Department of Health would likely require us to operate with 2 different sessions, closing in between sessions for cleaning, and to ask people to sit in marked out, a grid of marked out pods. This past week, it's been clear that we can relax that guidance based on the information we're getting from the state and the county. We pushed out on Friday the happy news that we're not going to operate with 2 separate sessions with a half-hour closure. You can come when you want. We're pretty confident based on what we know right now that we won't exceed capacity restrictions. So we are still asking folks to wear masks consistent with the rules we presented, but you don't need to be wearing a mask when you're seated with your group. You don't need to come and go with a reservation. We hope you'll come to the Pleasantville Pool and enjoy it as we have in years past. Snack bar open. Not everything is normal, but we're trying to make the world as normal as it can be. So we encourage you to join up. Pleasantville-ny.gov, opening day this Saturday. This Thursday, the 27th, at the Firehouse on Washington Avenue, there is a blood drive. So folks are encouraged to participate in that if you are able. And then, as you will see in one of the resolutions we're soon to pass, Pleasantville is going to be the site of a day-long itinerant filming project for the time traveler's wife. So there will be some disruption in the morning downtown, in the afternoon in the Old Village, but I think it's pretty well managed. Noreen has been working with the filming group, and they have been talking to the business neighbors about how best to operate this, and we're pretty confident that the fun of having Pleasantville, New York as the setting for Time Traveler's Wife is going to exceed the trouble we confront. So that's on June 2. And if you're interested, you'll see shortly in our resolution, and you can always get to it on the web through our agenda, the details about where they will be and what will be happening. The venues are the Black Cow, Nona Park, the pocket park across the street from the Black Cow, a period of time when they're working at Pleasantville Pharmacy, and then the Phillips 66 gas station in the Old Village. So they're going to be bringing in, I guess, 70s era cars. Have I got that right, Noreen?
Early 2000 is the time.
See that? 70s, early 2000s, it's all the same, right?
The early 2000s.
All right, so they're going to turn back the clock a couple of decades, but not more.
20 years.
Yeah. So at any rate, it ought to be fun, but it might also be a day to walk downtown instead of driving downtown, at least in the morning. Lastly, I just had a couple of other things to report. Senator Pete Harckham and Assemblyman Tom Abenanti have been working with the New York State Department of Transportation about the work that's going on the Sawmill Parkway. It has been disruptive for folks who live near there. Obviously, it's an annoyance to hear the pounding and pile driving that's going on in order to undertake that work. There were some immediate neighbors concerned both about noise abatement and also about some environmental issues. And a shout out to Senator Harckham and Assemblyman Abenanti. They have gotten the attention of the Department of Transportation, and I think some of those questions are going to get answered. But one piece that is certainly helpful is that the schedule for noise-making work has been reduced a bit to try to reduce the disruption to folks in the later hours of the day. But the bad news is that whatever you think of the project, it's going to go on for another year or more. Have I got that right, Eric?
That's correct.
So I think if I have it right, they're going to finish what they're doing right now in the southbound lane, and then some work will continue, but they will not undertake the big work when they move over to the northbound lane until the spring.
Around the spring.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff going on, but I just wanted to thank our two state legislators for having been responsive. So, and then lastly, we'll be undertaking a conversation soon, as I have mentioned in the past. New York State, a month or so ago, legalized marijuana, as I'm sure you have read in the news. And the piece of that devolves to our level of government is the question of whether we wish to opt out of the right for the state to license a retail dispensary and or an on-site consumption site. So those two things are two separate decisions. One can opt out of one and not the other, opt out of both. The way the law is written, you can opt out of it and then opt in at a later date. If you don't opt out by December 31, your community is opted in. There are a bunch of issues that have been raised on both sides, and I know the folks at Pleasantville Strong have quite a bit of information that they'll be providing to the community based on their viewpoint about all of this. But I think it's our intent to push out to the community the opportunity for a sort of an open house conversation via Zoom to get some preliminary commentary, and then to have a more formal meeting where folks, certainly the folks at Pleasantville Strong, are interested in making a presentation, and we will begin in a little more structured way to gain people's opinions on all of this. It's my thought, and I think my colleagues, that we ought to be able to make a decision on this one way or the other. Likely, I would think in September, something like that. It's an issue that is important enough that I don't think we want to make a decision in a final way in the summer months, July and August. But we'll use June to start the conversation, pick it up again in September. Anybody else on the board have comment to add to that or see it differently? Sounds good. All right, any other comments, questions, or announcements?
Just, you want to go over Memorial Day?
Yeah, that was the last on my list,
Okay.
which is that as we launch into Memorial Day weekend, again, shout out to the pool opening on the 29th. A shout out to Mike Newman here, who is on our Zoom call. Mike is a figure well known to all of us and to all of you, but with the departure of Matt Trainer, Mike has been anointed as our new superintendent. We issued congratulations before, but thank you, Mike, and thank you for taking on this role just at the time when a fire hose of stuff has been unleashed upon you. So thank you for that. But anyway, last year, our Memorial Day observances, which usually begin at BRS and include a parade down Bedford Road and a continued ceremony at the War Monuments at the North End of Memorial Plaza, were shifted for COVID reasons indoors, online, via TV. This year, in the improved circumstances, we're still not in a position to have a parade, or at least weren't at the time we had to make the decision. We are going to have an outdoor ceremony. It will be held entirely down at Memorial Plaza at the War Monuments at the north end of the plaza. And we will otherwise have a relatively normal ceremony. I really encourage folks who are interested in that to come. It will be at 10 a.m. on Monday, Memorial Day, May 31. We have the participation of a number of high school students to play taps and to provide some vocal selections. The Boy Scouts are going to participate as well. I think the entire village board, if I have it correct, expects to appear, as well as a number of school board members as well. Shane on the school board will be in his usual posture, assisting PCTV and filming it so folks can watch it later. But I can speak for myself as someone who's been to this many years in a row, that the ceremony of calling out the names of those from this community who were lost, I think, is not only a moving event, but a little honorific piece that's a responsibility of ours to the generations that preceded us. So 10 a.m. on Monday, the 31st. Hope you will join us. Anything further on any subject before we go to our resolutions? Okay. Here we go. Alyssa, we're making you for real here. Paul, number 135. I'll share my screen. No turning back now, Alyssa.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Alyssa Hochstein to Deputy Village Clerk for the term ending April 2022 and Registrar of Vital Statistics for the term ending of April 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, welcome, Alyssa.
Go.
Motion approved. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
136, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request for a film permit from Cooler Water Productions LLC for Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021 for the purpose of the production of HBO Time Traveler's Wife to include partial closure of Wheeler Avenue starting at 5 a.m., reservation of parking spaces in the downtown and Old Village areas, and utilization of village police officers for public safety. And be it therefore resolved that the village police chief has the authority to cancel the event due to adverse weather conditions or other safety concerns.
Is there a second?
Second.
So as I mentioned before, I think the production company has been quite cooperative, and they foot the bill for whatever costs we incur. So there is no cost to the taxpayer. And again, the details are available on this link, as well as on a bunch of signs that they have posted around town. And I've also seen some pictures of that posted on social media. So lots of ways to find out where to watch if you're interested. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 137, David.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Pleasantville High School for a class of 2021 car parade on Saturday, June 5th, 2021 from 4 to 7 p.m. pending submission of insurance documents, and be it further resolved that the village police chief has the authority to cancel the event due to adverse weather conditions or other safety concerns. Permit attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, does this mean they're not having a regular graduation this year?
I think they will have a graduation. In fact, there's been,
They're gonna have a regular graduation, on the 25th of June. Actually, we're talking about holding it at Parkway Field.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
giving them a little more opportunity. But at any rate, the event last year was appreciated by the seniors who had been deprived of a lot of their senior traditions, and certainly the class of 21 falls into the same category. Let me note that the village police chief has the authority to cancel the event due to safety concerns. That would be our little message to say, stay in the car, not on top of it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 138, Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Noreen Regan to the title Village Treasurer, job title code 006503, effective June 18th, 2021, with a salary increase to $140,000, effective June 1st, 2021. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of a minimum of 12 weeks and can be extended to a maximum not to exceed 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
As I reported earlier, Noreen returns to the department of her origins here in Pleasantville. So she's an old hand there. We are delighted to have her willing to take this on. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. Back
Thank you.
to you, Paul.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the salary increase for Frederick Morisi, Village Administrator, to $150,000 effective June 1st, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
I can report Eric has been with us, is it 3 years now, Marcy? Doesn't seem like 3 years, but it certainly has been. When Eric joined us, our conversation was such that we would certainly see to increase his salary. When he had his feet on the ground, he had his feet on the ground almost from day one. I am happy to see this, happy to endorse it, and happy to thank Eric for his good and humane service and careful management.
Here, here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 140, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 10th, 2021, and both the Zoom transcript and the regular transcript are attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or corrections on the minutes? Painfully, we can't correct the Zoom transcript because it's what we said.
Well, it's sort of hilarious too. So.
Yeah, right. I guess we could correct every little bit of garbled translation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Perhaps when this is all in our rearview mirror, we should have a joint reading of the most amusing failed transcription moments in all of our Zoom life. 141, David, right? All right, you did that, Nicole?
I did, yeah.
Yes.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year ending 2021 as listed below. Budget transfers from the general fund, $5,000 from a 1994 under contingent to a 162440 power expenses, $300 from a 1994 under contingent to a 1681-481 central technology light path, $700 from a 1990-1400 contingent to a 1681-488 central technology software, $15,000 from a 1990-400 to contingent to a 3120-105 police overtime for a total of $21,000. Appropriation of fund balance from the general fund, $185,000 for account 8995-901 transfer to capital to the Memorial Plaza project. Increased revenue expense, the capital fund, $185,000 from the revenue fund H050531 interfund transfer from general fund to the Memorial Plaza project. And $2,214 from the sidewalk program H0125411 to H5410-201/21490 capital sidewalk project for a total of $187,214.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the biggest part of this $185,000 reflects work that Jeff Econom, who went through it in detail in our work session, which was also recorded on Zoom if you want to go back to it, has put together for us in his usual thorough fashion. Jeff is going to spearhead with largely through our own staff a modification of the parking situation at the section of Memorial Plaza between Bedford Road and the gazebo, essentially to set up the opportunity for angled parking instead of perpendicular parking ultimately on both sides of the actual street part of Memorial Plaza. The several shoes still to drop before that's all done, but the current median will be narrowed, new lights getting put in, and a new conduit that will both upgrade the power, anticipate potential future charging stations, and give us the opportunity to put a pay and display device for paying for parking in 3 locations in the plaza, should we decide to go in that direction. Comments, questions? So I think we'll, Eric and Alyssa, we could push out at some point as an email blast clarification of what the work is going to be so that people are aware what's going to go on. But Jeff, you have indicated you think you can do this with really very little disruption to day-to-day life.
We're working with Jackie and Courtney to come up with a 1-sheet flyer that details out
Perfect.
coming work.
Great. So good news all the way around. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Jeff, let loose the horses.
Start ordering tomorrow.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Very much appreciated. Number 142, Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated May 24th, 2021 for fiscal year 2021, covering check numbers 100308 to 100401. From the general fund, 123,176 and 1 cent. Special purpose, $492.50. Water fund, $3,942.38. Capital fund, $57,769 and 8 cents. Refuse fund, $8,283 and 37 cents, for a total of $193,663 and 34 cents, with relevant attachments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? Folks occasionally ask me about the expenses for Pleasantville Strong, which show up in our check register. Pleasantville Strong is funded by a federal grant that comes annually and that is periodically renewed. So we are the fiscal agent for Pleasantville Strong, but the funds come from a grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Back to you, Paul. 143.
Excuse me, Peter,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, were you specifying there that what was labeled special purpose was Pleasantville Strong?
No.
Or was that what that was, or why did you mention it in this?
I mentioned it because somebody asked me about it.
Oh, okay.
There happened to be a little more money in that this time than sometimes, and someone said, who pays for that? So
I see. Okay.
that was the only reason I mentioned it. Doubtless the person that asked me isn't listening. I think I responded to them appropriately.
Okay.
All right. So 143, Paul, this is claims that accrue to the next fiscal year. So
Mhm.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated May 24th, 2021 for the fiscal year of 2022. covering check numbers 10042 through 100403. General fund 1,173.15 cents. Water fund 2,550 for a total of 3,723.15 cents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 144, Nicole.
Whereas the Board of Trustees hereby acknowledges the following results of the May 12th, 2021 opening bid of 2021-01 Memorial Plaza Lights and Supplies. So Light Concepts Limited gave a bid of $37,200 and Supreme Lighting Design LLC gave a bid of $43,533. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby awards bid 2021-1 Memorial Plaza Lights to Light Concepts LLC, Elmsford, New York, in the amount of $37,200.
Is there a second?
Second.
Included is a memo from Jeff Econom, our Superintendent of Public Works, reporting that he's reviewed the estimate. Just FYI, these lights are the ones that have been specified by Wagner Hodgson, the landscape architects we worked with on the concept for the proposed civic space at the north end of the plaza. And that project, the future of that project remains to be seen, but these lights are the same ones that have been specified, which we think is a good choice. And in the hypothetical that that project is executed in the future, we'd be lined up for everything to match.
That's reassuring.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. 145, David.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the agreement with Tyler Technologies for a 2-year agreement, June 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2023 for Socrata software for a total fee of $13,200, agreement attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, Noreen, you want to tell us what Socrata does for you?
Noreen, do you want to take this
Yes.
one? I'm happy.
So the village currently utilizes OpenGov as its public transparency portal for financial transparency with regards to the village. That process requires us to export and then import into OpenGov. And we honestly do not get a lot of public viewing of OpenGov and the document and the data that it provides. What we're recommending is a 2-year agreement. It will actually update automatically every week because it is another Tyler product and we use the Tyler Munis accounting software. Going with Munis as well, what we're hoping is it's not only a portal for the public to see what we're doing on a weekly basis, but more importantly for every employee in the village. So if we had a parks foreman who wanted to look up and see who we had ordered supplies from in the past, it's no longer, waiting to maybe call somebody back in the office for the information. They can just, once again, go right to the village website, drill down a little bit and find out that information right away. So we're really hoping it's a twofold process to give more updates to the public with regards to the village budget, but also as a non-password required gateway to Tyler for all employees.
Great. A thorough and impressive report from Treasurer-elect Regan. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Maureen, I think we forgot to mention in our resolution making you treasurer that you still have to attend all of our meetings.
I may still be at a lot because I like selling things like this, but not behind the scenes. We did do a lot of research to see what was out there, and the fact that we are not downloading, manipulating data to then put it on another website we were trying to avoid that, and this one really does tie in. But it really showed through when we were working altered schedules and remotely and out of the office that every employee needed more tools to work independently. And this, I think, will help, especially several, the parks foreman, the highway foreman, Some of the office staff who, once again, are very intimidated by Tyler or just the Munis product right now because you have to log in. This does not require a login. And there'll be switches we can, have to provide more detail and hopefully, like I said, just show exactly what's happening at the village on a weekly basis. It will automatically update.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And for any resident who is a deeply committed civics geek, it will be a rabbit hole to go down and spend a lot of time in. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 146. Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the closure of Memorial Plaza north from the gazebo to include the slip lane for the Village Memorial Day ceremony, Monday, May 31st, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And further resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the police chief to post no parking signs effective Monday, May 31st, 2021, and to tow all vehicles in violation of this temporary parking restriction.
Is there a second?
Second.
So as I mentioned earlier, the ceremony itself is at 10 a.m., but the no parking restriction begins at 8 a.m. So that we can set up for it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Back to you, Paul. 147.
Resolution 2021-147, scheduled public hearing for introduction local law 3 of 2021, amending chapter 98 of the code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning fees for building permit renewals. Whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to amend chapter 98 of the Village Code to allow the building inspector to waive fees associated with the renewal of an expired building permit if and when the applicant for such a permit is a municipal entity. And whereas proposed to local law was introduced on May 10th, 2021, and whereas the proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and no further environmental review is required. And whereas the Board of Trustees is fully familiar with the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing on Monday, June 14th, 2021 at 8 p.m. via video conference in accordance with the Governor's executive orders, which will include opportunities for interested members of the public to provide written and oral comments on the proposed local law.
Is there a second?
Second.
So again, just clarifying the circumstances under which we would be willing to waive the fee for an expired building permit, which is normally not done for a private entity, but in this case is proposed to be an option made available if we have a municipal entity, for example, the county, seeking to do this. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Tony Ann Collins, 117 King Street, to hold a block party and thereby close King Street and Bismarck Street on Saturday, June 5th, 2021 from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a good time. King Street residents, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. And David, last one of our night.
Well, there's one more after me now, I think, still. But because we just added one. A result, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Recreation Department to waive 2021 pool membership fees for active members of the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department and Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps residing within the village.
Is there a second?
Second. Sorry. no.
Second.
Second.
All right, who got it? The intent of this is clear. Thank you to the active members of the Fire Department and the Ambulance Corps who assist us on such a frequent basis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Peter, there is one more. If you refresh, you should be able to.
I'm getting to it. There we go. 150, Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby refers the request from Nancy Candy, 12 Summit Place, for off-street parking in the village right-of-way to the Planning Commission for review and comment. with a description and proposal attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
We had this discussion earlier with Nancy Candy and her architect, Ed Elliott, and they presented what we found to be a reasonable argument for allowing what is not normally permitted without approval of the village board, and it certainly will still require the planning commission's approval for off-street parking. All in favor? Aye. Motion approved. All right, that's the last of our regular resolutions. Is there any comment from a member of the public or further comment from the board? So we're going to return to work session and finish one item that we had not completed because we ran out of time. And then thereafter, can I have a motion to return to work session, but then to go into an executive session on a legal matter?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Thank you all. Very much appreciate your attention, either watching live or on tape. 2 things to remind you of for sure. 3 things. Get a vaccine, join the pool at pleasantville-ny.gov, and join us on Memorial Day at 10 a.m. on Monday, May 31. Thank you all and good night. We return to work session.